everyone and welcome back to our channel. Today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic for you. TOEFL versus Duolingo. Which one should you give for your MS in the US? If you're an international student applying to MS programs in the US, you know that you need to take an English proficiency test. But with so many different tests to choose from, it can be tough to decide which one is right for you. We know that English proficiency tests can be intimidating, but don't worry, we've got your back. In today's video, we are going to compare the TOEFL and Duolingo English test, DET, head to head, so you can make an informed decision about which test is best for you. Let's start with acceptance. The TOEFL is the most widely accepted English proficiency test in the US. Do you know that it is accepted by over 10,000 universities and organizations worldwide? In the US, top universities accept it such as Harvard University, Stanford University and Princeton University. The Duolingo English test is still relatively new, but it's quickly gaining acceptance. It's now accepted by over 4,000 universities including MIT, Yale University, the University of California, Berkeley and Johns Hopkins University and organizations worldwide. Money talks, right? The DET is a more budget-friendly test than the TOEFL. The fee for DET is just $49 while the fee for TOEFL is $195. The DET is also more convenient than the TOEFL. You can take it from the comfort of your own space as long as you've got an internet connection. TOEFL, on the other hand, requires you to travel to a test center and show up in person. Let's talk about difficulty. Some students find it easier to achieve a higher score on the DET than the TOEFL. This is because the DET is more focused on reading comprehension and grammar. The TOEFL also includes a speaking section which can be more challenging for some students. Both tests are challenging, but the DET is generally considered to be easier than the TOEFL. But why? Because the DET is more focused on reading comprehension and grammar, which are two areas where many non-native English speakers struggle the most. Do you know that YOCKET is a one-stop solution for all your study abroad queries? Right from the beginning of counseling until the pre-departure session. You will have access to expert study abroad counselors, the smartest tech-savvy platform, quality and commitment. Isn't that great? What are you waiting for? Head over to the description, click on the link and find the university that's just right for you. Now, the big question, what should you do? Well, start by checking out the requirements of the universities you're eyeing. Then think about your needs and preferences. If you're on a tight budget or need a more convenient test, DET might be your go-to. However, if you're concerned about the TOEFL being more widely accepted, then you may want to consider taking that test instead. And here are some bonus factors to consider when choosing between the TOEFL and the DET. Your time constraints. The DET is a shorter test than the TOEFL. It only takes about 90 minutes to complete, while the TOEFL takes about 3.5 hours to complete. Your English proficiency level. If you're confident in your English proficiency, then you may be able to achieve a higher score on the DET than the TOEFL. Your learning style. If you prefer to learn in a more self-paced environment, then the DET may be a good option for you. The DET can be taken at any time of the day or night, and you can take breaks as needed. Ultimately, the best way to decide which test is right for you is to try out both of them and see which you prefer. Oh, before we go, some pro tips for acing TOEFL or DET. Practice, practice, practice. Take those practice tests to get comfortable with the format and the question types. Brush up on grammar and vocabulary. These tests love to test your language skills. Make sure to focus on these areas in your studies. Practice speaking and listening. If you're taking the TOEFL, you will need to practice speaking and listening. There are tons of online resources out there to help you. Now the question is, which test should you take? Since we're talking about institutions in the US, you should prefer the TOEFL over the Duolingo English test, as it is more accepted and study material is widely available. If you are looking for a more affordable and convenient test, then you may want to consider the Duolingo English test. However, be sure to check with your institution of interest before taking the Duolingo English test to make sure that it is accepted. Let me tell you some additional factors to consider when choosing between the TOEFL and the Duolingo English test. If you're not sure of your English language proficiency level, you may want to take a practice test for each test to see which one you're more likely to do well on. If you are a self-motivated learner, then you may prefer the Duolingo English test, which you can take at your own pace. If you prefer to study in a structured environment, then you may prefer the TOEFL, which is administered at a testing center. The TOEFL is more expensive than the Duolingo English test. Ultimately, the best way to decide which test is right for you is to weigh the pros and cons of each test and choose the one that best meets your needs. Whichever test you choose, make sure to prepare well. The TOEFL and DET are challenging tests, but with proper preparation, you can achieve a high score and demonstrate your English proficiency to US universities. We hope this video has helped you decide which test is right for you. If you enjoyed watching this video, do not forget to like, share, subscribe, and sign up for personalized assistance with your study abroad journey. Good luck with your studies.